Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, with Keir Starmer now installed as Prime Minister and his government being formed, I'd like to discuss the three major battles coming up in this Parliament, why I think they're so high priority, and what to expect from a practical point of view. In a nutshell, electoral reform, media reform, and reversing Brexit. I'd even put them in that order. I'll tell you why. First, electoral reform is arguably the easiest and most impactful. If we get electoral reform right, then many progressive courses become easier to pursue. The story of the election results today is of Labour doing what it has to do to win power, winning lots of seats by small margins. This is the mantra I've been plugging on this channel for 5 years now. So forgive me if I don't waste time on people who go, oh, but vote share, vote share. Vote share is meaningless. Shouldn't be, but it is. Only seats matter, and to win a seat, you only need to get one more vote than the person who came second. Of course, you want a bit of a buffer, but majorities of like 20,000 or something are a complete waste. And if anything, allow the MPs to feel too safe. I see no harm in MPs feeling that they can't take their constituents for granted. What about you? But if more people have an active role in determining the shape of Parliament, then all of a sudden surveys showing a majority in favour of a particular policy become relevant. Because right now they're not. They're politically worthless. Oh, 70% of people agree with this. Is the 1% of people who decide the election in that 70%? Oh, I don't know. Then it might be worthless. You name a progressive policy and it becomes so much easier if you have a representative parliament. Second would be media reform. This is trickier because the media will of course fight like dogs. However, we know that some press reforms at least are probably coming because Starmer refused to tell the editor of The Times that he wouldn't introduce further measures, which is why The Times refused to endorse Labour this week. Now, I don't expect Labour to adopt all the media reforms I would like to see, but any step towards a more fit-for-purpose regulatory framework would be an improvement. And for the love of puppies, can we not let the press regulate itself? And if we can improve not only media regulation, but, as importantly, enforcement, then again, there is more chance that we get something closer to genuine scrutiny of politics and policy. And the third, of course, is Brexit. Brexit is an incredibly knotty issue right now because, on the one hand, anything other than full alignment, once more, is an unnecessary block to our trade. And that trade's really rather important to a government which claims to want to have the highest sustained growth in the G7. And as for this Brexiteer cobblers about more trade around the rest of the world, that was unicorn chasing even back in 2016. But since the pandemic, the world is moving away from global supply chains. Countries have realised that as a result of like COVID and other geo-instability, that they make you too vulnerable to pandemics and geopolitical instability. Like you get a major shipping route attacked by pirates or a political blockade, bosh, your economy takes a hit. So the entire world is focusing on can we actually get ourselves supplied closer to home now? Brexit was a dumb idea with the worst possible timing. And yet, we're not in a position to even think about customs union, single market or membership because we do not even meet the most basic test of, is this politically settled in your country? No, because the Tories. So we need to chart the swiftest realistic course back to the EU, and that course has to include way more public engagement with the debate than has been happening. And just as with the other two battles, if we start reversing Brexit, there are other policy areas which become just easier to pursue, like the NHS. The NHS is super important to most voters. We're struggling with shortages of drugs because of Brexit. We used to, at any one time, maybe have shortages of about 20 different drugs, NHS drugs. Now it's more like 160, 180. People are noticing it. They're not necessarily noticing that it's caused by Brexit trade barriers, though, because nobody is explaining it. You let the people of this country know that Brexit is causing major damage to the NHS. You watch how quickly what little support remains for Brexit melt away. So we need that public debate. And if the mainstream media aren't going to provide it, and they are not, then we need non-traditional media to do so. And how are we going to amplify these messages and debates? Because non-traditional media, let us be honest, means media that doesn't have as high a profile, particularly with politicians. So it needs amplifying. How do you amplify it so that the public hears it and a government, and certainly a parliament, more interested in listening, responds? Well, there are effectively three options. The first is to sit back and hope that all of this seems obvious enough to Labour that they just do it. Now, this might work, but it's what we call in the industry a gamble. The second is to say, oh, Labour don't want to do it, there's no point. And we just sit back and do nothing. This is what's known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. The third option is to recognise that there is actually huge demand for all three of these causes, not just within Labour, but in our very different parliament now, and organise. And how to organise? Well, if electoral reform is your thing, and you're a Labour member, join the Labour campaign for electoral reform if you can spare the extra bit of money. It's not that expensive, but it does cost. If you're outside Labour, join another large group working for the same cause, like, sign up to the Movement Forward, the guys behind stopthetories.vote. That is an electoral reform campaign. Make Vote Matters, another major campaign if you prefer someone different. But try and go for one that's working with the others as well. And what if Brexit's your thing? Well, inside Labour, join the Labour Movement for Europe. It's a group. There's lots of groups within Labour that are full of Labour members and Labour MPs that are all interested in pushing a particular cause. Join them. Help put some wind behind their sails. So Labour Movement for Europe, inside Labour Party. And whether you are inside or outside Labour, you can also join European Movement as well. I do. In fact, I'm going to be doing some monthly content with European Movement from this very month to really try and get things going here. Because up until this election, campaigns have effectively just been noise. It's been trying to get people on board. The Tories were interested in Brexit debates. The media were interested in Brexit debates or electoral reform. They're certainly not interested in media reform. All of these ideas are now very popular within Parliament because they're already popular within Labour. And Labour now have basically almost 2/3 of Parliament. We just need the push to overcome what little resistance there is. And that resistance, I am telling you, is not as much as you think. But just as trade unions organised to push for workers' rights over 100 years ago, so too does any campaign need its supporters to organise. Speak with one voice. Join what you think is the best campaign group for the causes you back and amplify your voice so it is heard. We have a parliament much more inclined to listen now. We should make use of that. In fact, we should make urgent use of that. The chances are you've got a new MP now, or you will do once they've been sworn in next week. You could email them. You could let them know where you stand and ask where they stand on a few key issues. Don't spam them with 100 policies, but there's nothing wrong with picking one or two, opening up a line of dialogue. Imagine if a few hundred people did that with your MP. That would get them to sit up and take notice. They may already agree with you. They may not. But if they know there's a lot of people in their constituency that are interested in it, and do you know what? They're sitting on a majority of just a few thousand. They'll sit up and take notice. So take advantage of the fact we have a parliament much more on our side now, full of MPs who don't have massive majorities, can't sit back going, oh, I can ignore the voters. You may be cynical. You may think that, they're not really going to listen. I'm going to say, take a leap of faith. Doesn't take much effort, does it, just to contact your MP? Now, if they don't engage and you voted for them, you've always got the option of withdrawing that vote next time, haven't you? But I think most MPs will be up for engaging on issues like that. I think a great many MPs will already be on our side on this. Join an established group. This is not a task for guerrilla tactics, but a mass voice. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.